Hi guys, welcome back. Eric UK here with a continuation of my Pathfinder campaign. Where we left our heroes, they were in the dungeons of Castle Caldwell, having just defeated a band of skeletons and a gelatinous cube they had allowed to catch up with them. Where we started, they decided due to their injuries that they were going to head back to town and take the chest that they found in the kitchens upstairs with them. So they headed back. They didn't have anyone who could pick locks or get rid of any traps or anything, so they basically spoke to the local blacksmith, and he failed to get the chest open, but he did manage to set the trap off and get poisoned. Thankfully the party's cleric, Haji, had a healer's kit and therefore managed to give him a suitable bonus on his next test to overcome the poison. The other thing that came up here that kind of falls into a bit of the old school gaming that we've been talking about on the RPG Brigade recently. I was playing the various townsfolk in the inn who were listening to the quest and so on, and one of them just turned and said, "What you need is a rogue." Now, I haven't used that sort of term for 20 odd years. Yes, fighters, wizard, cleric, whatever, but to just come out and blatantly say you need a rogue because rogues are the ones that deal with traps and stuff, I haven't done since we played Basic or First Edition, and it just kind of popped out there spontaneously, and it felt right, to be honest. No one sort of gave me a funny look or anything like that. They were all in that old school mood. Fortunately, the village they're in isn't big enough to basically have anything like that, and there were no rogues, so they had to leave it for the time being. They rested up, they headed back down the following morning, basically ran into another band of skeletons, or two bands, because they get caught in a passageway, having to fight either side. Dealt with some ghouls. How and why the ghouls were down there, who knows, just felt right. And then they managed to not managed, but then they went back to the one door that they couldn't open, its locked door. And they worked out that there is a room in the middle of the dungeon that they had basically skirted round. There was no obvious ways in. No sign of secret doors, so they basically got the picks and mining tools the skeletons had been using and basically put in the door to this locked room. I'll just actually clarify there is a locked room and there is a separate room they think of in the middle. Within this room, there's a magical circle on the floor, which the sorcerer detects as magical, but couldn't pass a spellcraft check in order to identify it. And the room's only other occupant was a wooden wardrobe. They skated around that, found it was empty, but naturally were frightened of what this circle was. They had the idea that it might be a teleportation thing, because that's what the circles are like, or it summons something. So they got one of the bodies of the dead ghouls and they threw that on and it disappeared. They threw the wardrobe on it, which promptly also disappeared. They then sent one of the party back to town and came back with a stonemason, because they were looking for someone who would work stone and would have the appropriate tools to drill through a wall, sort of thing. And I thought, yeah, why not? And they drilled through a wall into this compartment in the middle of the dungeon. Couldn't see much at all, but it meant that they could look through and see if anything happened. And they did notice that there was a circle on the floor, identical one, with a wardrobe on top of a dead ghoul, but they couldn't see much more else in the room. They went back to town again, this time to get a chicken, because they wanted to know what the effects of passing something living through the teleportation circle would be. So all in all, this was quite a fun little bit, and only two of the party were brave enough to risk it, which was our elf ranger Valerius and Gideon, the human fighter. And basically what they find in the room once they're in there is there are 10 coffins up against the north wall, with various names of the Caldwell family on, and they start looking for a secret door out. Unfortunately, they disturb two occupants of the room, which are plague zombies. the family having died of the plague about a century before. Unfortunately, the elf goes down, infected by the zombie rot, because, you know, why not? And it's left to Gideon to take down the Gabriel, to take down these two remaining ones, and he becomes infected beforehand. Using a riddle that they find in the room, Gabriel. I always want to keep calling him Gideon. I don't know why. Even in game, I keep making that mistake. They find this riddle, which they then use to activate this teleport circle, send them back. This was in the original module, because this, as I mentioned before, is based on the I think it's called Castle Caldwell, a very early basic red box module. And they speak to the guy that hired them to go down here, and he's basically, you know, he's going to wall this bit up, and he doesn't want anything to do with it because it could be dodgy. But the party has a problem. Now, two of their party members are diseased, and none of the party has any means of dealing with this. But someone just pointed out that basically this walked quite well into the second scenario. Because one of the villagers said, well, the next town over that you're going to, Nybor, has a relic of the goddess Serenray, and every year, and it's coming up to that time now, the relic is rung, and all these pilgrims that turn up are healed of their illnesses, their madness, their deformities, or anything like this. So the party basically walked into it by no fault of their own, and so their master, Besnik, the caravan merchant, basically packs up, and they take the week's journey over there. On the way, though, they actually manage to pass their fortitude saves, and they overcome the disease. But they've still got to go there anyway, because that was the next step on Besnik's route, and they figure, you know, why not? Let's see what the situation is. Which leads into our second scenario. Here they find that the night before of their arrival, because it's taken them a week to get across the moors, somebody broke into the Temple of Serenray and stole the relic. The watch, they find out, have sent a party in because the track into the woods nearby, because the thief didn't cover their track particularly well, or didn't want to, and found that several miles into the forest there is a strange black stone structure that wasn't there the last time anyone went out into the woods, and they couldn't find a way in. This scenario is kind of built around Haji, as he's a cleric of Serenray. So he's all up for, you know, let's go and do this. You know, we don't want anything for it. This is, you know, a quest to do for the temple. And off they go. They encounter some goblins on the way before reaching this structure. They find a door, and there is this strange eye-like thing over the door, which as soon as it spots the group and looks them over, the door opens and they're allowed in. As soon as they're in, the door shuts and disappears into a wall of stone. Basically, they find themselves, not going to go room by room here, but basically they find themselves in some kind of structure that has planar qualities, and seems to be devoted to the dark god Zon-Kuthon, who is kind of like this Hellraiser-ish, pleasure, pain sort of entity. A bit more to him than that, but, you know. And they do run into some of the clerics of this god. And I kind of describe them as kind of like, they're human, but they've got like grey skin with necrotic scars, and their eyes have been sewn shut with copper wire and sort of stuff, to give a kind of oogie sort of feel, which seemed to work actually, surprisingly. But as they go around, there's numerous traps and puzzles that they find, of which they came up with some really nice ideas to overcome. Especially one that was like a, if I can use the pen that I'm for some reason playing with, you've got a floor that tilts whichever way and spins around, dropping into a pit full of orcs basically. And on the other side there is a shelf with this bell, which looks like the one they want. Detect magic shows it's magical. It's actually under the effect of a magic aura spell to make it look like it's the relic. And they managed to get around this by using a grapnel and rope, which isn't something I thought of. Basically tipping the floor, getting the grapnel over the other side, and then basically they can use their own strength and weight to balance whoever walks across the room, which is quite cool. You know, thumbs up for some quite ingenuity there. They also found 3 rooms so far with paintings that have the backgrounds of Valerius, our Elf Ranger, Haji, our ASMR Cleric, and completely forgotten his character name now, that's bad of me, Kendo, our ASMR Sorcerer, showing their backgrounds that the players have given me, which has got them worried now. I figured, they're going to really hate me for this because I'm already playing with the character backgrounds, but they actually enjoyed it, and they're now quite worried that somehow they've been manipulated in some way. Is the impression I got. They haven't got to the room with Gabriel's background yet, because the player in question hasn't actually given me the background. We're doing it tonight and working it out, ready for the next session. And basically, this dungeon sort of like spirals in on itself, and there'll be a central point. So that's pretty much where we've ended it. We've just found the 3rd background wall painting. And I've got to say, again, we had an absolutely awesome session. This whole back to basics thing that we're trying has just made the game so much more fun. Nobody cares about the ecology of the dungeon or why it's there or what have you. It just is. It's I'm really enjoying what we've got here so far. Pardon me. And I'm looking forward to the next bit. Now I've just got to decide what I want to do for the 3rd scenario. I haven't actually decided exactly what the character backgrounds are. All of the character paintings that I've seen have shown an element that's from their backstory. For example, Haji remembers as a child his home burning down, and he thinks his mother was sold into slavery. And that's sort of like shown in there. Valerius, I don't know if I can't remember whether he said it was his. Whoops, there goes my phone. Can't remember whether he said it was his wife or his lover, but she was killed by goblins out in the woods, and that's why he's renounced the gods, because why would they do this to him, this sort of thing. And in Kendo's case, he has some amnesia. He doesn't remember quite what happened to him, but his family, he was adopted, and his family was killed, the home destroyed, and he woke up. His beautiful ASMR features scarred by these black, what appear to be claw marks across his face and body. And this is what's shown in these 3 paintings, but somewhere hidden in the background is like this gigantic silhouette that seems to be covered in thousands of eyes, which they think, I think it was Haji made an appropriate religion check or a planes check, and remembers that Zonderkathon has some kind of herald, which is some kind of demonic entity covered in eyes that allows it to perceive every possible future or outcome. Now, I haven't decided exactly what this is about. I've just got this idea that they've perhaps been manipulated by this herald or by the cult of Zonderkathon. I doubt the god himself actually cares less, but somewhere in this, So I've just got to decide as we go along where that's going to go. Anyway, before I drag out too long, that's where we've got up to now, and it's a fortnight until our next game. So thank you for following and listening, and I'll see you then. Take care, good gaming.